Once upon a time, in a peaceful monastery nestled deep in the mountains, there lived a wise old monk. He was calm, kind, and always wore a gentle smile. People from nearby villages often came to see him, not just for blessings, but for advice. No matter what was happening around him, the monk always seemed content and joyful. One day, a young man visited the monastery and asked him, "Master, why are you always so peaceful and happy? No matter what happens, you never seem troubled. Don't you ever feel sad when life goes wrong?" The young man asked. The monk closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them slowly with a soft smile. "My child," he said, "life is like the weather. Some days are sunny, some are stormy. But I've learned something important. True peace doesn't depend on what's outside. It comes from within." The young man looked puzzled and asked, "But how can you remain happy even when difficult things happen?" The monk began to share a story from his past. "When I was a young man, I too lived in the world, with a family, a simple life, and many dreams. One day, illness struck someone I loved deeply. We had little means, and despite all efforts, they passed away. That moment shattered me. I felt broken, lost. I cried for days. I believed I would never smile again." The young man listened intently as the monk continued. "But over time, sitting in silence and observing the nature around me, I came to a realization. Sorrow is a visitor, but it doesn't have to stay. My pain would not bring my loved one back. Yet life was still calling me forward. I chose to walk that path. I began to understand that both joy and sorrow are part of the same journey. And I made a decision. I would not let sorrow steal my light." The young man was amazed. "But how did you do that?" he asked. The monk looked up at the trees swaying in the breeze. "Every morning, when I open my eyes, I say to myself, today is a gift. Some days, it's harder to feel joy. But even then, I find something. The sound of a bird, the warmth of tea, the silence of dawn. These small things remind me that peace is always here, waiting to be seen. Even a single blooming flower or the smile of a passing traveler can be enough," the monk said. The young man thought for a moment. "But what if something terrible happens? How can anyone stay calm?" The monk replied gently, "It is not easy, but I always remind myself, this too shall pass. All things change. Suffering, like the wind, comes and goes. In the middle of the storm, I anchor myself in gratitude for my breath, for my awareness, for the chance to grow. Happiness is not an accident," the monk continued. "It is a choice. You can feed your pain, or you can nurture your peace. It's not about pretending bad things don't happen. It's about deciding where to place your attention. What you water grows." The young man bowed his head in gratitude, deeply moved by the monk's wisdom. He left the monastery with a new perspective. From that day forward, he began to practice what the monk had taught him, finding one small blessing in each day. Slowly, his life began to shift. Even when troubles came, he faced them with strength and calm. Others in the village noticed the change and asked him what had happened. He shared the monk's wisdom with them, and soon, more people began to see life differently. They realized happiness was not something to chase. It was something to discover within themselves. The village became more peaceful, more compassionate. And all of it started with the quiet teachings of a wise old monk who lived high in the mountains. No matter how difficult life may seem, we can always find stillness within. Peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in how we face them. Life's storms will pass, but the calm we build inside can last forever. If this story brought you peace or clarity, share it with someone who needs it. Let's spread calm in a noisy world. Like, share, and subscribe for more timeless wisdom from the path of the monk. Until next time, walk gently, live mindfully, and choose peace.